Hey, what's up, YouTube? We are back with the explosive update with the Illuminate. I did not really expect Illuminate this soon. I've been telling people that I was thinking, oh, maybe around, the 1 year mark, February, but I was watching the Game Awards like many, and it dropped, and I had to immediately install and play it. My initial reactions are extremely positive. Definitely, this is the initial wave of Illuminate. We basically only have up to the Charger tier of enemy, because you can actually fight the tripod harvester enemy at difficulty 4, same one that is introduced as the Charger, so same difficulty. So we have many more to come. So for the people that are, mad on Reddit saying that they're too easy, they'll get harder. Don't worry. This is just the initial kind of like tutorial to them. But extremely fun to play against. They really do feel like a mixture of bugs and bots, coming together in like a nice way. They're not annoying. There's very little like annoying mechanics going on. I do think there's like a couple things that need to change, but we'll probably talk about them throughout the video. Yeah, really positive impression so far on Illuminate. But this video will be encompassing like my thoughts on the different weapons and how to utilize against them, but also just like how stratagems and stuff like that work. Getting into the primary weapons, assault rifles feel like really good. They definitely have designed like chaff in general around that like light pen does actually feel effective versus Illuminate, even up to like the tier 2 like jetpack and like the overseer. I would probably lean more towards medium pen weapons in general, just because like you are going to be more effective against those tier 2, and you can start to actually take out harvesters with your medium pen, right? So I was going to kind of go into this a little bit later, but I feel like it kind of, is a good time to bring it up. So the tripods, if you have not seen a tutorial on this yet, have medium pen on their like appendages right before they get to the actual leg. Okay. Second part, this green part, they have it on the top and the bottom around the eye. They're shield generators. If you take out one of them, their shield will stop coming back. So like a good practice is you take out the shield with basically anything that has high damage per second, and then you take out one shield generator, which only requires medium pen, and then you can then chip away at like pick one leg, similar to a lot of mechanics in Helldivers. Pick one leg. It doesn't like do additive damage between all the legs. Just pick one and nail it. You can start taking out, these like tripods with primary weapons. They take a while, a couple mags maybe, but depending on accuracy. But it is something that you can kind of, help the team out with if you like lost track of your support weapon. All right. Saying that, continuing, I've been really liking the Liberator Penetrator Adjudicator. Just that medium pen really helps you take out those tier 2 enemies and punch through. But, that's not to say that like a lot of the primary weapons that are light pen, especially like Tenderizer, for instance, like feel good, right? Especially for just horde clearing in general. There's a lot of zombies running around, and the weapons are quite effective versus them. I've been seeing quite a discussion on the Constitution. Obviously, the peak physique armor got buffed, so it does more damage. Constitution has melee weapon. It does have some synergy. I haven't seen people like enjoying it and having fun with it. It wasn't particularly my cup of tea because the weapon component of it is still quite weak. But, fun option regardless. DCS is nice for like picking out those tier 2 targets and like doing decent damage because you can be quite accurate against harvesters. But obviously it falls short versus your zombies, just because you have to take out a leg to leg them, and then they crawl towards you and die and bleed out. Or you have to hit headshots, or else you're taking 2 shots per body, which is not very efficient for each magazine, so not the best. Reprimand, obviously working very well with the medium pen. Pummeler is great for just locking down enemies if you're, getting annoyed by like, individual jetpack troopers and stuff like that. Been seeing people like the Knight, putting in a burst fire, trying to get those accurate bursts out, and then Defender, classic for people. As far as shotguns go, definitely the incendiary shotguns are like king at the moment. Just because they are so good at efficiently taking out mass waves of zombies, either taking the cookout or the incendiary breaker. Just make sure with the incendiary breaker, don't just spam it. A lot of people like to talk about the ammo economy. Don't just spam it, or wear the new ammo conservation armor that gives you, 20% more reserves, 25%. Really good armor, by the way. We're going to be doing a video on the Warbond tomorrow. Other weapons that, I've been really liking is like the Halt, the combo of stunning, then going into the medium pen is nice. The stagger of the Punisher is always nice. And then the new buff to the Breaker Spray and Pray is better. I like that the handling isn't trash anymore for a close range weapon, but it still has the issue of Cookout and Incendiary Breaker still exists, and they are the kings of chaff. So it is what it is. Crossbow is incredible, and we already knew that. You already knew that. Just be a little more patient trying to get those shots on like the jetpack troopers, wait for them to hover in place, then take their shots. It's an average of 2 shots to take out the tier 2 enemies. And obviously zombies are dying left and right to this thing in big clumps, which is great. Eruptor, same thing. Not as good as the crossbow. The crossbow is definitely overperforming compared to the Eruptor, but Eruptor is a good option for a lot of things. Also, if you're fairly accurate with the crossbow versus the harvesters, you can take them out pretty fast, right? Like it's killing them like within a mag if you can hit those like those leg shots really accurately and get the impact on it. Like it's actually quite strong. It's surprising at times, but it can sometimes be difficult to get those shots. Plasma Punisher is a fairly good option just for the AoE because of the low HP of the zombies, the vote lists. It is actually fairly good. I just don't like it particularly on a lot of the tier 2 enemies, but you know, some people really like it. So there's that. Blitzer, fan favorite as always. Just unfortunately, it has the range problem, and you do actually fight a lot of the Illuminate at range, and this thing is not going to do anything versus a Harvester because I don't recommend getting close to a Harvester. You've probably seen it already, but if you get between that like 30 to 20 meter range or closer, they start zapping you and one-shotting you, and it's pretty deadly. Scythe is still in a good spot. They need to fix the scope. There's still that scope issue where if you like do the zoomed in scope, it like zooms out your weapon, but it's really trippy and weird, but unfortunately that's still a thing. Sickle, fan favorite. A lot of people are liking it for just general mobbing, unlimited ammo, solid AR, good for like the shields and stuff like that. My only downside is like obviously it doesn't have medium pen, but it can make up for it just for having high uptime and not needing to be resupplied as much. Scorcher, seeing a lot less of it. Something I haven't mentioned yet is explosive damage seems to be being very weird versus shields, where it's not always applying, especially for those warp ships, the ones that are on the ground. If you take a grenade launcher and try and take off the shield, it does no damage to the shield for some reason. And I've been noticing that explosive damage in general just seems to just not be working. So unfortunately, you might want to land or stay more to like impact damage rather than going for explosive damage. So like something like the Plasma Punisher kind of definitely loses some, you know, viability in Illuminate missions just because it does a lot of its damage through explosive damage. So it becomes less efficient at breaking those shields, but you definitely want to bring something to break those shields so you can help the team, you know, with those objectives if your stratagems are down. Purifier is fantastic. It's just a different version, as you will, to the crossbow. Still very good. Solid option. You're not really taking out the UFOs, obviously, because a lot of the damage is explosive, but very good at mobbing. Hopefully they can fix the explosive damage issue. Torture, good option. Very good for mobbing, as we've talked about. Just like Flame in general is good against the husks, and you know, you have a stratagem in your primary weapon slot. It's very good. Highly recommend. Dominator is maybe not good for the zombies, but it's very good for the tier 2 enemies. And if you have like the lineup pretty well, you can take out the harvesters pretty effectively with it, just because it has a good per shot damage. So highly recommend. Secondary wise, not too much going on here other than the new melee weapons, which are very good against zombies. Not amazing versus the tier 2, but we all knew that melee weapons were more or less just going to be a chaff clear and just for fun. But they're very entertaining to use, and you'll see me using them every once in a while just for a little bit of fun. I've been really loving the Verdict versus the Illuminate. I felt like the Senator doesn't really have a place at the moment. Maybe in the future we'll need that extra pen to really make a big difference, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be making a huge difference. It will give you a damage bonus, you know, against certain enemies that are like rocking medium armor, but for the most part, I would probably just stick to something that's light or medium pen, taking out your UFOs with the grenade pistol, or maybe something a little more niche for team play with the stim pistol. Bushwhacker got a nice buff for reload speed, which is noticeable and is nice. I appreciate it. And I think it also got a couple more rounds in reserve. I've been liking it. It's fun. Remember, it's a Punisher in your pocket necessarily, which is cool. And yeah. Also, Loyalist got a nice buff. More backup magazines. I was saying that this weapon just doesn't have enough shots to really feel effective over the long course of a game as a sidearm, like if you weren't like charging every shot. So definitely like the change that they made there. Dagger, solid option if you just want something that has lots of ammo, because it can have unlimited. So yeah. Throwable wise, I can't stop using gas grenades. They just also improved them to be able to blow up fabricators, bug nests, and it can be thrown at those like Tesla towers. If you've noticed, those Tesla towers that are all over the Illuminate map can only be blown up by ways of like, you know, crossbow, grenade pistol, grenades, sport weapons. For some reason, you can't primary them down or anything like that, which is really weird to me, or you have to use a stratagem. But you can use your grenades, and gas grenade can now do that. Gas grenade has just been insanely powerful versus the voteless. But that being said, you know, it's not the only one that's been really good. Any of the incendiary weapons in general have been very effective. Stuns, less effective. I feel like they're just not necessary at the moment. Thermite has been like okay versus the harvesters at times. I just don't recommend getting too close to the harvesters because, you know, they do that zap attack when you get too close and it can get a little crazy. Smoke, I haven't really seen feeling needed, just because, you know, playing stealthy isn't really necessary all the time. And, you know, if you want to avoid Illuminate bot drops and, you know, their version of it, just shoot the disco ball floating around. That thing, as long as you're killing that as soon as it shows up, anytime, it's a very effective tool to just like make your missions way easier. So smoke hasn't really been necessary. Impacts are decent. Grenades are still there, and they're just good. You know, frag grenade if you actually want the extra kind of throws. But for the most part, sticking with my gas grenade, I love it. It's actually so good. As far as my support weapons, I've been absolutely loving the MG43. This thing is kind of like, I've been saying to my chat that it's like I just want it to work loadout. You take this in a supply backpack, and you can basically use this thing versus everything. Great versus the hordes, great versus the tier 2 enemies. Actually quite good against the tripods, the harvesters, you know, aiming at those legs, right? It's actually quite good. You'll only have to take maybe like 50 shots or so like that, maybe less, to nail it. You know, it might not be as fast as the AMR or HMG, but the fact that this thing is good at taking out shields, it's good at the husk, it's good against the tier 2 enemies, it's just good at everything, is like crazy to me. It's very universal. Anti-meteor rifle is better against the tier 2 and the harvesters, very good at hitting those weak spots. Hit the head of the tier 2 enemies and you'll one-shot them. Very effective if you have a precise shot. So very rewarding. Obviously, you're not really going to be using it versus the like hordes of zombies, but maybe you bring the cookout or the incendiary breaker or like a sickle or something like that to take out those. Really good option. Stalwart is getting a lot of uptime right now because the tier 2 enemies are pretty susceptible to light ammo. It's quite good. My only problem is that it's not really helping you with the harvesters, but if you have teammates that can help you in those situations, or you're bringing lots of stratagems that can deal with them pretty effectively, like 500 kg and stuff, yeah, you know, Stalwart has a definitely a role here. I'm going to say like a blanket statement for AT across the board. It doesn't seem to be particularly useful in this initial wave of Illuminate. There just doesn't seem to be really a necessary need for it other than shooting down dropships. For those who don't know, you shoot the ring of the bottom of the dropship to one-shot it. You can use recoil, a spear, and so on and so forth to one-shot them. It is a fairly good strategy, and you can use it that way. And you can one-shot harvesters if you hit the leg. But honestly, because we have all these support weapons that are very good at just like doing lots of rolls, might as well just use those weapons to help you against the harvester. But, you know, let's say you're using a stalwart, you know, you could pair that with an expendable if you're interested. Recoil is probably the king of dealing with the dropships just because like a pure uptime, really strong. Flamethrower, fairly good against your hordes. It lacks the range to deal with the tier 2s. And if you're ballsy enough, you can kill a harvester pretty quickly if you get into that shield and like aim straight up. But you gotta be having some balls of steel for that one. Autocannon, still a very solid contender. Maybe not as good as the anti-material rifle and the machine gun overall, just because it seems like accuracy or just volume of fire seems to be just better versus the Illuminate. And it does suffer from shields not really taking explosive damage, weirdly. Still unsure if that's like properly intended or not. But it's still a very solid option if you're an enjoyer. I've been using flak a lot of the time when I've been shooting things. But yeah. Heavy machine gun, very strong contender. Definitely want to bring that with the supply backpack and peak physique armor, just so it feels better in your hand. But extremely strong at killing tier 2 enemies and extremely strong at killing your harvesters. Airburst got the cluster rounds, which is nice. Very fun for using on defense missions if you got like large groups of enemies. Kind of hard to use sometimes in the cities because I've been finding that every once in a while it will blow up on something, like it'll airburst early on some random geometry or something like that. So that still is a thing, so be careful. Try not to get you or your teammates killed. Also, don't shoot this out of the vehicles. We had a teammate try that. Didn't work very well. I think the vehicle triggered it. Careful. Commando, same kind of thing as the rest of the AT. Don't necessarily recommend it, but you know, fairly good option if you're a big enjoyer of the laser guided. Railgun, if you have a very precise hand and you don't need the scope of the AMR, very strong. But I think a lot of the times I will prefer the anti-mateer rifle over the railgun just because you have that scope, so you can be a little more precise at the longer distances. I'm still hoping one day for like the railgun to gain some kind of scope, maybe like a 2x or something like that to help for those situations. Doesn't need like a sniper rifle scope, just a little bit more zoom would be like very appreciated. Spear, like I said, it doesn't feel necessary at the moment. It can shoot down dropships, but honestly, it's not very efficient at it because it's just like having the tracking time, only having 4 rounds total, and because of its tracking, you want to hit the underside of the dropship. There's sometimes where it hits too high and it doesn't one-shot the dropship, which is very unfortunate. Orbital Gatling, love throwing these in the middle of the street and just like letting the zombies like walk into it. Really strong at that. You can break the shields on UFOs. You're not actually killing the UFO with it, but you know, those warp UFOs on the ground, you know, it's fairly nice to have something that you can just, you know, on a low cooldown, take out a shield with. Airburst, fairly effective against those similar situations, throwing in the middle of the road, allowing your enemies to walk into it. Because of the delayed detonation, it's very good for that. 120s are awesome for the Illuminate encampments. We don't seem to have any large encampments, so the 120 is actually really good for throwing it right in the middle and getting quite a few of those UFOs. 380, same thing, throwing it at those Illuminate drops. Unfortunately, you know, the harvesters will tank a round if they have their shield up, but you can kind of like preemptively pop the shields and hoping that the 380 lands it. Walking barrage is nice for like those really long, you know, corridors of enemies in front of you, and maybe like a you know, something happening at a distance. Still a good option. Orbital laser, I love using it on the Illuminate. I'm just like hoping the devs remove the uses and just like keep it at 300 seconds or maybe bring it up, you know, to compensate for the lack of uses necessary. And it goes to like 360-second cooldown, something like that. I want to use the laser. I feel so hampered by it only being 3 uses at the moment. We have so many great stratagems that don't have uses, and this one just gets hampered by that. Orbital napalm barrage, very good versus Illuminate. A lot of enemies are very susceptible. It basically tier 2 and under, and it actually messes with harvesters fairly frequently, like blowing up their shields and stuff like that. So highly recommend the Orbital Napalm Barrage if you feel like you're getting overrun by zombos. So good choice. Orbital Rail Cannon Strike. I've seen way too many harvesters survive this for some reason. And I mean like the shield is down and they survive it. Don't know what's going on there. Maybe they need to address that. I don't know if anyone else is noticing that. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have seen that. Very odd. Strafing Run, great option for those corridors of enemies like we've been talking about, but also really good for removing the shields on the UFOs. Very good. You know, you have 5 of them. Although it won't kill the UFO, if you're just like running around and you like don't want to waste your like machine gun ammo on it, very good option. Eagle Airstrike. Unfortunately, it's not actually killing the UFOs outright. It doesn't actually go into that tier. So it is killing the shields, but I feel like because it's not really dealing with the UFOs outright, it's actually kind of dropping down a little bit. Cluster Bomb, very good for all the chaff. You're not really doing anything versus the Harvester, but you already knew that. Napalm Strike, very good for the chaff and tier 2 enemies. Fairly effective. Jump Pack's been a lot of fun to just like be mobile. One thing that the Illuminate are kind of bad at is being mobile. And you can definitely outrun the Illuminate pretty easily by being like quite good about like movement. Also, they're inaccurate. They're like quite inaccurate. So you can like get away with the jetpack a lot, so been using that quite a bit. Smoke, you can smoke off corridors and stuff like that in the city and like sneak around if that's up to you, but I haven't really been seeing anyone do this, and I personally haven't been doing it. I'd rather just kill the horde of enemies. It's more fun, but if you get a kick out of being stealth, that's for you. 110s, very disappointing. Not a huge fan. Still feel as if they need to give it back that damage it previously had and the accuracy that they gave it now. I think it would be in a much better spot. 500 kgs are awesome as always. They can actually kill the UFOs on the ground outright. So very good for like just running around and killing them. Also, it's really good at mobbing. You can outright kill harvesters with this thing quite effectively. Take out the shield first. Highly recommend that. Then throw this. It's good. Precision Strike, same thing as the 500 kg. Just not as powerful because less of a radius and so on and so forth. But still a very good option. Gas Strikes, very good for the mobs, especially the zombos. But highly recommend the gas grenades. Right? They're basically the same thing. Just a little bit nerfed version of the gas strike. It's incredible. Orbital EMS strike, can't recommend. It's not really stunning things. It's not removing shields, unfortunately. You kind of like, okay, EMS. Okay, I've in some pop culture situations, like EMS takes out shields. Not doing that here. Just a heads up. Smoke strike, same thing as Eagle. It's just a worse version. HMG in placement is insanely good. Now, it got a small change that you might read as small, but it's massive. It now, when it blows up, it doesn't do any damage to you. No killing, no nothing. So you can sit on this thing while tons of things are attacking you, just spamming stims, just like mowing down enemies. I don't feel afraid at all when I use this thing now. It is incredibly good at everything the Illuminate have. Mobbing, tier 1, tier 2 enemies, dealing with harvesters. Very good. At the moment, the HMG emplacement is incredibly good at like everything. And it's very efficient, so you don't feel bad about having to get on the turret and not be shooting your support weapon, for instance. Very good. Highly recommend. Shield generator. I don't think the Illuminate have enough projectiles that are accurate enough at the moment for me to really recommend or feel like this is necessary. It's a nice to have, but I don't think it's like automatons where it's like kind of very useful. Tesla Tower, good choice for all the chaff. Obviously, it's going to be killing your teammates, but you know, just make sure that they know it's there, and you'll appreciate it. It's a good choice. Very good. Minefields in general, fairly good against all the chaff, but I feel like there's so much cannon fodder, like the regular zombos, that they just eat through your entire minefield really fast. And then the enemies that you actually want to walk into it, like the tier 1 and the tier 2 like overseers and stuff like that, and the enemies some of them are flying. Minefield's not doing particularly well. Spy backpack, amazing as always. Pair it with your support weapons that you love. Grenade launcher, underperforming because it basically does only explosive damage. So it's not performing very good against shields. They need to look into this. I feel like the grenade launcher should be a lot better versus Illuminate. And it's good in some ways, like for the mobbing aspect. And it's okay versus harvesters. But man, it's doing no... Like you can sit there and spam like 3 magazines into the ground UFOs, like the fabricators for the Illuminate. And it does nothing. Literally nothing. It's crazy. Laser cannon got a nice buff. It shoots for 20% longer before overheating. Great change, but where's the rest of it? It still needs to do more damage. I still feel like it tickles too often, and it doesn't cool down fast enough. I feel like it's just sitting in my pocket overheating, far too often. Like we made some great changes to the scythe and dagger. I would love for those to come over to the laser cannon. I want to enjoy the laser cannon more. I feel like I can't at the moment because it's like it's spending so much time overheated. It's nice that they gave it another additional radiator too. That was definitely necessary, but they're moving in the right direction, but it still needs more. I want to love the laser cannon so bad, but they keep buffing everything else, and everything else is just so much better than the laser cannon. When laser cannon gets these like small incremental changes, I'm just like, gotta keep it a little bit closer. Incendiary grenades are probably the better of the two. Mines, anti-personnel mines. It's nice to be able to throw the fire out and then zombos walk into it, light them on fire. A little more efficient. Both guard dogs, very good. I probably prefer the ballistic one a little bit better because it's very good at taking out those jetpack troopers so you don't have to. It's also very satisfying watching the rover like one tap all these enemies in the head. They seem to be programmed to aim and like smack them in the head. It's actually like great. It's very satisfying to watch as well. Ballistic shield is an interesting one. Some people are really enjoying using it with like the crossbow and stuff like that. I can't necessarily recommend it because I just feel like there's not enough enemy shooting unless you get like a jetpack variant and there's like 6 jetpackers in front of you. Then you'll want the shield backpack. But like, I feel like you're better off just bringing like the shield generator or the new phalanx shield generator. Yeah, I don't know. Arc thrower, very solid support weapon at the moment. Really enjoying it. It's unfortunate that like it's having tracking issues specifically on Illuminate. Especially the zombos. I don't know why, but like I'll go like 5 shocks in a row sometimes and like no hits on a horde of zombies. I don't know if I'm the only one here, but other times it'll be extremely consistent, and other times like it won't hit anything, and I'll have to like just give up for a bit, and then it'll start working again. I don't know if it's like it's tracking to dead bodies, which that was a functionality they added a couple months ago, but yeah, it's really weird. Anti-tank mines, not useful at all yet. Hopefully in the future we'll get something that makes them good. Obviously, like the tripods, not very effective versus tripods because the tripods only have like 3 small little legs, and the chance of them stepping on an anti-tank mine kind of low. Quasar, like I said, for the other ones, not really necessary at the moment. It may be interesting in the future when explosive damage does more damage to the UFOs, and maybe we get some heavier armor, but don't really recommend the Quasar at the moment. Shield generator, already said, really good for just keeping you alive, but you already knew that. Still solid, still good. All of the machine gun sentries and the galley sentries, very strong. Very good for horde clearing, very good for like dealing with the tier 2s and taking out the shields of the harvesters. Don't expect them to take out the harvesters, but very strong. Mortar sentries, very good for the defense missions that we're currently doing. You know, if you feel like those evac or high value asset like defense missions are hard, just like take mortars, take double mortars, like 1 or 2 of your teammates, maybe 3 or 4 if you really want to spam them. They're fantastic at the Illuminate. Just because the Illuminate are very slow in general, the only thing these things aren't taking out are the harvesters, but just bring a support weapon that takes out them, and your mortars will do the rest. Very strong. Obviously, other than the flying units. Guard Dog, already mentioned. Autocannon Sentry, very good versus harvesters. A little overkill versus like the hordes, but good versus the tier 2 enemies. Rocket Sentry, still very much like anti-infantry and anti-tank, just because it has so many shots. AoE, very strong. Both exosuits are feeling very good. The thing that I tend to lose my exosuit the most is just watch out for those little purple pots, like explosive barrels on the ground. This thing will strip both arms off very easily if you step on one of those pots by accident or like get too close and it blows up. So just be careful with that. But the extra tankiness of the exosuits, very loved, appreciated. Haven't had a chance to try it on bots yet, but I'm sure it'll make some effect. Sterilizer, I'd probably just recommend just bringing the gas grenade. It's a fun one to just like mess with all of them and slowly kill a bunch of enemies. But I think the flamethrower will probably just be an overall better choice for you in general. Guard Dog, Dog Breath still has some terrible AI, so it's kind of stupid at times and doesn't leave any glass clouds behind. So still not amazing versus Illuminate, but it's okay. Directional Shield. I love this thing. I think it's awesome. You can like prone on the ground and like completely cover your entire body. It seems to have a lot of HP. It does seem to have more than the shield. I haven't done like proper testing on it. I'll be doing that more for tomorrow when we do the Warbond video. But been like very impressed with this thing. I think it's a lot of fun for team play, as you can see in the video. It pairs really well with the melee weapons. It doesn't block melee damage, unfortunately, but it does block all projectiles. If a melee like comes towards you and goes through the shield to hit you, it will hit you. If the melee just quite kind of misses you, not quite hitting you, it hits the shield. So if you see anyone saying that it blocks melee attacks, it doesn't actually. They just got into a lucky situation where it just only hit the shield. So keep that in mind. Flame Sentry, love this thing. It's actually really good. I was actually really impressed. It seems to be fairly tanky, and it's like got like aimbot versus the bots. It doesn't really, or bugs, it doesn't really show it here, but like it'll like swap targets so fast. It's really funny, and it's really good versus the chaff. Really enjoying it. Don't put it on like a long hallway. Maybe like put it in a side alley or something like that. So as the enemies walk by, they just get blasted by the turret, and it kind of protects it from like a long range fire. Really enjoying it, putting in those alleys and like making a trap for the enemies. Really fun. Really fun. And then lastly, we have the anti-tank emplacement. Super fun. I love this thing. I'm so happy we got it. I've been like suggesting some kind of like manned anti-tank weapon. It's great. You can don't be like this person and just like spam the harvester like that. You can one tap the harvester if you hit him in the leg. It's very good at that. I think it's like 2 shots to take out the shield, and it's 1 shot to take out the leg. But what you can do is you can like hop off the turret, shoot it with your primary weapon, take out the shield, and then like one tap it. It's got 30 rounds. Really good with the upgrade. It does slowly turn, and it's like okay versus chaff. I noticed like the first shot tends to knock down a lot of enemies, and then it takes an additional shot to kill, and that's even chaff. We did do a little bit of testing just as a sneak peek for the Warbomb video. Did do a little testing versus bugs and bots. This thing's great. 2 taps Bile Titans, 2 taps Behemoth Chargers, 1 taps a regular Charger, 1 taps most bugs that you can think of. And the AoE does seem high enough that it actually like does enough AoE damage to kill a lot of the smaller chaff of bugs. Bot-wise, this thing's insane. You're going to see a lot of people using it on bot front. It's really good. I'm just going to say that. It's really good. Okay, the next part I wanted to just do is just like a quick kind of like what I've learned from Illuminate and how I kind of handle them. I think there's like 2 main strategies that you can do for handling a lot of these like urban warfare kind of maps. I think there's like the, land on the outskirts of the city, maybe clear out the outskirts and then move inwards, or you jump right into the Viper pit, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because, if you're someone who loves, just like getting into the game, nothing shooting at you, then kind of getting into more combat, it's very effective and it works. But you probably noticed that there's a lot of SAM turrets in the cities, like sometimes up to 3. I don't think I've seen 4 yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone's got a screenshot out there of like 4 SAM sites or something like that. And SAM sites trivialize Illuminate, because a vast majority of Illuminate you're going to be fighting is going to be coming from the dropships if you're not dealing with the disco ball watchers. And you can have so many SAM sites that you don't even fight any Illuminate whenever they come in. Ship comes in, instantly down. Shiv comes in, instantly down. Shiv comes in, instantly down. Doesn't even have time to drop anything off. It's crazy. So you can kind of like preemptively scout the map to kind of like figure out if maybe there's any SAM sites. I've noticed that you know how like there's this like town square kind of looking thing right here where my mouse is? I've noticed that like these tend to be where they spawn SAM sites. So since you see like 3 right here, there's a pretty good chance that they might actually be SAM sites on the map. So you can kind of do a little bit of preemptively scouting with these situations. It's not 100% guaranteed, but you know, it can be fairly useful because if you can get those SAM sites early on in the match, it'll make the rest of your match feel extremely good. Just do be aware that typically the cities are on low-lying elevation. So if you end up pushing out of the city later, the SAM sites might not have line of sight to help you with bot drops later, or sorry, Illuminate drops later. Another thing that I've noticed is that there's a lot of POIs in the city, so just do be listening for it. They hide the containers a lot in like in between things. So as you're like just walking around the city, there's a lot of ammo, there's a lot of POIs. Just, you know, keep your eye on the map to look for those symbols, you know, as you walk by them, and just try and learn the like, you know, kind of distinction, because you're going to start picking them up without even needing to notice it on the map, which is great. The UFOs in general are, I think the outposts in general are very, very weak at the moment. The only thing you got to worry about is check your corners. Those Tesla towers can very easily destroy you. I get surprised by them all the time, and it is a rare situation where you're like, oh, maybe I should bring the electric resistant armor. So yeah, just watch your corners on those ones. They're the only things other than the purple like barrels. And the other thing is that the towers, you can really just rush them, like the scrambler towers, and just like deal with them really easily. I haven't really had any problem just running in there and just like taking them out really fast. The scrambler, how it works to my understanding is that it just like every like 10 seconds or something like that, it scrambles the codes of your stratagems. Or if you fail the stratagem and like you miss an input, it'll scramble it. Or if you open up your stratagem list, it'll scramble it as well. So you definitely can continue to use your stratagems while a scrambler is nearby, but you know, you probably should go deal with it. It's pretty easily marked, you know, as the big funnel on your map. So yeah, very fun to deal with. And yeah, let's get into like some quick loadouts. As I've been saying, you know, I think you should try and make a well-balanced loadout. I think those tend to be the most effective over the long course of a mission. You definitely can make specialized loadouts, but that means that you're definitely depending on your teammate that might end up dying at some point or something along those lines, and then you're left to maybe deal with something. I feel like having a well-balanced loadout and everybody having a well-balanced loadout tends to make for like the most successful missions. And what I mean by that is like grabbing a primary weapon, maybe grab a chaff clearing weapon, you know, so like, you know, if I'm picking like my favorite chaff clearing weapon, I'm probably picking something incendiary, right? And then next, I'm going to go for my support weapon. I'm probably going to pick something that's more like medium or like the heavy pen support weapons. So like my autocannon, just heads up, they now count as heavy pen for anyone. It's like, they're not heavy, they technically count as, you know, pen 4 weapons count as heavy pen now. So I'll probably grab like autocannon or heavy machine gun. For the purposes of the video, maybe I'll pick my like anti-material rifle. A lot of times with an anti-material rifle, I'll probably bring a supply backpack or a guard dog. It's really fun to take a guard dog, so you just don't have to deal with the zombies anymore. Your laser guard dog will do it for you. Really useful for that. Typically after that, I'll probably grab something to deal with like my UFOs. You know, if I don't want to get up in there and actually have to deal with like actually like blowing it up through like a grenade pistol or something like that, probably like an Eagle 500 kg or a 120 millimeter barrage is really strong. Orbital precision. So for that, we'll grab that. And then I've been actually really enjoying grabbing like a sentry of some kind. You know, flame sentry for more of your chaff, you know, machine gun sentry or Gatling sentry for more tier 2 and tier 1 enemies. Anti-tank just to have some fun. Rocket sentry is a good all-arounder, you know, as we said earlier. But more or less, you know, that's kind of like how I'm building a lot of my loadouts at the moment. And then just, you know, making sure that you have something to blow up the UFOs on your person. So like either bring in the grenade pistol, bringing grenades that can do it. Gas grenade can, remember that. Or, you know, making sure that you're grabbing the 2 primaries that can, the explosive crossbow or the eruptor. So that's just an example of how I'm building my loadouts at the moment. Quick thing on a bunch of the boosters that have been changed. The armed hell pods we're going to be talking about a little bit later with the Warbomb video, but fairly good. Been enjoying it. Dead sprint, very useful for getting around the maps. Love the vehicle, by the way. I haven't mentioned it yet this because we haven't really unlocked it, but it's extremely fun to use, and I can't wait to actually be calling it in. I might in these loadouts, I would like replace it with the turret, for instance, when we do get it. They did buff the flexible reinforcement. It's now way better. It's basically when you lose all your resupplies, or like all your your call-ins, your reinforcements, it's on like a 30-second cooldown now, which is actually really powerful. And for a team that's maybe struggling on the harder difficulties and losing a lot of your reinforcements, this takes off a lot of pressure. It's actually, I'm never a huge fan of like planning for failure, but this does help if you're really trying to push into those hard difficulties as a team. Motivational shocks has become a lot more effective. So when you do get slowed, it won't last as long. This will probably have the biggest effect on like bugs for mostly hunters, but definitely something that is interesting. I'm forgetting the other changes off the top of my head, but you know, the cliche 3 is usually the best ones to go for, and then the 4th is very flexible. Help out optimization, stamina, and vitality, always really solid ones. And then the 4th is more or less up to your team. Experimental infusion, maybe the new, you know, armed pods, maybe dead sprint if you just want to sprint everywhere and you don't mind losing a little HP because you're already taking vitality, which helps with dead sprint. Localized confusion can help with lowering the amount of intensity of the match, you know, prolonging out the times that they're going to call in a new Illuminate bot drop. But if you're dealing with the supply or the SAM sites that I'm telling you like you should be doing, this will make it a lot easier. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Consider dropping a like and a follow on the Twitch. I go live every morning other than Mondays. If you're looking for some HD2 content, let me know down below. What do you guys think of the Illuminate? What Illuminate are you guys expecting? Are you guys expecting those psychonic the mages that like fuck with your movement and reverse your controls? You guys looking for the snipers that are gonna make things? Are we gonna get like some heavy mothership in the sky? I'm just really curious what you guys think are coming. Let me know what loadouts you guys are really enjoying. Really curious to know what you guys are running. And don't worry, we will be doing a tier list. I just need a couple more days to kind of get used to it. I also want to wait for this MO to finish. Are we going to be getting more units after the MO? I don't want to rush out a tier list and it just be obsolete in like 2 days or something like that. So give me a little patience. The next video I'll be making is one on the war bond. I'll just be discussing what I think about it. And I do think there's a pretty big discussion to be had about stratagems being in the war bonds, and especially really good ones. So yeah, we're gonna save that discussion for the next video. Much love. Hope you guys enjoyed my yap session about Illuminate. Love them, and hope you guys are enjoying yourself. Good luck out there, Helldivers. Bye, everybody. Peace.